Hello my friends, today you are gonna learn how to search items in React. We are gonna begin with a basic searching method using data with 1000 records. And then we will search items using multiple properties. And finally, we will go ahead and search items in a backend server. I think it's gonna be really useful because it's one of the most important concepts for beginners. If you are ready, let's get started. Okay, firstly I created a React app. As you can see, there is an empty project. So what I'm gonna do is creating here an input. I will say input and class name will be search. Let's give a placeholder. I'm gonna say search and let's see. Okay, as you can see, it's here. And under this input, I'm gonna write a list of names. Let's create here a list, UL, class name will be list, and inside this list, we are gonna have list items. And let's say John. And maybe second one, like that. Okay, of course, we have some styles here. Let me show you. We have CSS file here. As you can see, there are some basic styles here. Just margin, padding, text align, nothing complex. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, instead of writing them one by one, I'm gonna use this JavaScript file. And as you can see, we have an array here, which includes our user information. First name, last name, email, and gender. And there are 1000 records here, like that. So we are gonna use this array. Let's import this. I will come here and say import users from users file. So I can use it here. I will say users and I'm gonna use map. And for each user, I'm gonna return this list item. And right now, instead of John, I can use first name. I will say user.first name. Let's see. Okay, all those names are here. Perfect. So what I want to do is, when I write something here, for example, FE, it's gonna search for those letters and find those names. Firstly, we should figure out what we are writing inside this input. How we are gonna do this? It's really easy. I will just create here a use state. I will say const, let's say query, and set query. And it's gonna be use state hook, and at the beginning it's gonna be an empty string. And I'm gonna come here. Let me close this sidebar. And I will say on change method, I'm gonna take event, and whenever we change this input, we are gonna change this state. We are gonna set it again. So I will say set query, and it's gonna be event, target, and value. Let me write it here. I will say console log and query, and let's see what's gonna happen. I'm gonna open my console, and as you can see, there is an error here that because we didn't use any unique key for our list. As you remember, in the users array, we have unique IDs, ID 1, 2, and something like that. We can use them as a unique key. So I will come here and I will say key. It's gonna be user.id. I'm gonna refresh. Okay, perfect. So let's write here something. I will say A, and as you can see, it's here. B, C, whatever I write here. Perfect. Right now we have query. In this case, I'm able to filter my users. How we can do this? Before writing here, let me show you. Maybe here I will say users array, and I'm gonna use filter. And for each user, I'm gonna search for something. I will say if user.firstname includes, let's say F and E, it's gonna show us a new array, which includes those letters. Let's see. As you can see, there is a new array here, and there is only one user which includes F and E. But there is a problem here. As you can see, we have Felix here. The problem is this F is capital letter, but we are actually searching for lowercase f and e. So what I'm gonna do is transforming those first names to lowercase. Like that. Let's see again. And right now, as you can see, there are 6 items: Felix, Fern, Ferdy, and others. It's that easy. So let's delete here and apply for our users here. So instead of all those names, I'm gonna filter this. I will say filter for each user if user dot first name to lowercase includes any of our query. Remember, it's here. Whatever we write inside this input is gonna take that string and search for it here. Let's close here. I will say F and E, and as you can see, they are here. All those names. Let's say A, Adore, it's that easy. And this is the basic version of search algorithm. Let's jump into other one. Sometimes, not sometimes, mostly, we don't have that basic list. If you remember, in our array, we have name, surname, email, and other things. So we should be able to search for their name or surname or email address or whatever. We are gonna handle that here, but first let's create a table and show other user information. So I'm gonna delete this list. Instead of this list, we are gonna use table. Actually, we can create new component here. I'm gonna say table.jsx. Let's create our function, and I'm gonna create here a table. Let's create here tBody, and inside, firstly, I'm gonna write my titles. To do that, we are gonna use tr. By the way, you don't have to know anything about table. Don't worry about here. First one will be name. Let's duplicate this, surname, and let's say email. Let's use it here, and you can see better. I'm gonna call my table component like that, and let's see. Okay, as you can see, our titles are here, and here, another tr, but this time I'm gonna use td, and I'm gonna show first name, surname, and gmail.com. Let's see. Okay, perfect. It's gonna work like that. Of course, we are not gonna write them manually. Instead, I'm gonna take here a data prop, and I'm gonna cover this tr. I will say data.map for each item inside this data. I'm gonna return this tr. Of course, don't forget your unique key here, item.id. Remember, this data will be our users here. We are just gonna send it as a prop. In this case, I can use item first name, item surname. What was the name? I'm not sure. Okay, last name. It's gonna be dot, by the way. Last name and email. Okay, let's pass this prop here. I will say data is gonna be users. Remember, we imported this here. Let's see. Okay, all items are here. Perfect. So how I'm gonna filter those users? I'm not gonna do this operation here. Instead, let's create another function. I will say const search function is gonna take a data and it's gonna return a filtered version. I will say data.filter for each item. Remember how we are doing this for the first name. If item and first name to lowercase, and if it includes query, includes, it's gonna return those data. So let's use this function here. I will say search function, and for data, remember here, I'm gonna pass my users. So it's gonna take those users and filter all users. It's exactly the same thing as we did before. I'm gonna write F and E. As you can see, they are here. But it's searching for only names. What about surname and email? Basically, I can do the same thing for others. I can copy here, and I will say search for first name, or search for last name, or search for email. Let's see what we have right now. And as you can see, we have more data here because it's searching for name, surname, and email. Our letters are here. For second one, it's in email, here again, and for this one, it's in surname. Basically, it's searching for everything here. Let's say ACD, as you can see, it's here, like that. But it's not the efficient way. That's because we might have maybe gender, age, job title, or whatever it might be. So writing them like that, it's not a good idea. Let's make this easier. So what I'm gonna do is taking first name, last name, and email from our users and use it here in one line. How I'm gonna do this? Firstly, let's write here our keys. I will say keys. It's gonna be an array, and first one will be first name, last name, and email. Of course, you can write here any other things, gender, job title, whatever inside your array, and whatever you want to search for. But for this example, I'm gonna use just 3 of them. Let me show you how I'm gonna do this. I will say console log, and let's say users and first item. I'm gonna open my console, and as you can see, it's our first user. But how I'm gonna take its first name, its email, and its last name? I can use those keys. If I come here and say first name, for example, as you can see, we have its name. If I say email, it's gonna give me its email. It's that easy. So basically, I can map through those names and I can use them here. Let's delete here. I will say for each keys, but this time I'm not gonna use filter or map. I'm gonna use some method. That's because we are gonna search for 3 different properties here. It can be in first name or last name or email. And this key basically says if our query inside first name or last name or email. As we did here before. Remember, we were using or. It's gonna do the same thing. So I will say for each key, item and key to lowercase again, and includes and query. Again, we have users here. We are gonna take each user and it's gonna search for each key inside this user, as we did here. Users array, and each item in this example, it's just first item, and each keys. In this example, it's email. Let's delete here and let's see what we have. Let's refresh the page and close here. I will say FE, and as you can see, it's exactly the same result. Here, 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 and here. Like that. Okay, right now we know how to handle more complex tables like that, but let's take care of a little bit advanced method. Because in the real world example, we generally fetch those data from any server, any API. So instead of storing all data in the client side, we are gonna fetch them from API and we are gonna search in the backend server. And in a real world example, we never fetch thousands of records like that. It's too expensive to fetch data in that way. So what we are doing, we are fetching first 10 data or 100 data, and in the client side, if user wants to reach other records, they can just use pagination or infinite scroll or only this search button. Basically, we are gonna fetch, let's say 10 data, and we are gonna use this input. When we search for any letters, we are gonna fetch it again and again. Let's do that. Okay, I created everything for you. This is our React application. Everything is same. Of course, I deleted that function. We are not sending any data for now. And I created an API here. Let's see what's inside. As you can see, it's a basic API. We are gonna use Node.js Express framework, and it's gonna listen 5000 port number, and we will be able to make any GET or POST or any other requests. Of course, it's just an example. I'm using Node.js here. It can be any other languages or frameworks, doesn't matter. So let's make a GET request in our application. Let's send a response. I will say response and JSON, and I'm just gonna say hello. Let's see here. It's our empty application. I'm gonna call localhost 5000, and as you can see, it sends this string. It works like that. So instead of hello, I can send my users. As you can see, I created these users here. It's exactly the same array. Of course, it can be any DB, but in this example, I'm gonna use exactly the same array here. Let's say import users from users. Let's send this users, and let's see again. And as you can see, all data is here. Perfect. So how I'm gonna fetch all those data here? Let's come inside our client side, source and app.js. What I'm gonna do is creating use effect hook. Use effect. And my dependency will be empty for now. And I'm gonna say const fetch data or fetch users. It's gonna be an async function because we are fetching data. And I will say const response, and I'm gonna use here Axios. You can use JavaScript fetch also, it really doesn't matter. Import Axios from Axios, and I will say get methods, and I'm gonna use my URL localhost 5000. Of course, await here. We should await this process. And when I fetch this data, I'm gonna set it inside new view state. I will say const, let's say data, set data, and new view state. At the beginning is gonna be an empty array. And whenever I fetch data, I'm gonna set it again. Set data is gonna be response and data. Let's call this function here, fetch users. So whenever we run our application, it's gonna call this function, that because we don't have any dependency here, and it's gonna update our data. Let's use it here and see what we have. And as you can see, it already fetched all those data. Perfect. But as I said, we are not gonna fetch all of them. We are gonna send, let's say, first 10 items. So I will come here and I can use splice method beginning from 0 and ending at 10. Let's see, I'm gonna refresh the page. As you can see, just 10 data. So what I'm gonna do right now, we don't have all those items, so we cannot search in our client side. So what I'm gonna do is, whenever I write something here, fetching these data again and again. Of course, according to these letters. To do that, we can use request and query. What I mean by that, as you remember, to fetch this data, we are using this URL, but also we can send any query here. Probably you have seen this question mark and some query in any website. We are gonna do exactly the same thing. Our query will be any letter here, and our server is gonna take this letter and search for this in the DB or like our example in the JSON file. But how we are gonna reach to this query? I will say const, let's say query, it's gonna be request, query, and Q. That because I'm gonna use just Q here, and when we search for anything, it's gonna take it and assign in this variable. And also, you can use it like that, you can destructure that. It's exactly the same thing. Let's see what we have actually. I will say console log and Q. I'm gonna enter. Let's see what we have. I'm gonna open my terminal. It's here. As you can see, it's here. Let's say Lama dev, enter, and it's here. And I'm gonna use exactly the same function as we did before in our client side. Remember, keys search function is gonna return this filtered data, and instead of user, we can use search method and users like that. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna write here F and E. I'm gonna enter, and as you can see, it returns only those items. Here, here, here. It works perfectly. Let's change here. Perfect, it works. So I can use it in my client side here. When I use these inputs, I can take it as a query, and whenever I change here, I can fetch data again and again. So what I'm gonna do is changing my use effect here. Instead of quotes, I'm gonna use backtick, and inside I'm gonna use query, and it's gonna be whatever inside my query here, like that. It's that easy. In this case, we should write here our dependency is gonna be query. It means whenever it changes, run this function again and again. Let's see right now. I'm gonna refresh. First 10 items. I'm gonna search for something, and it's fetching those data. Perfect. If I open my console, here, and choose network, when I write here something, as you can see, it's fetching data again and again. But searching item for the first letter or second letter, it's not the common usage. So what I'm gonna do is writing here a limit. For the first 2 items, it's gonna just ignore. When I write here the third item, it's gonna search. How we are gonna do this? I will come here and say if query.length equals 0 or query.length greater than 2, just fetch this data. Why I'm using 0 here? It's because the initial state, when we refresh the page, when we run our application, we are not gonna have any query. In this case, it's gonna fetch those items. And when I write here a letter, as you can see, it's not changing. Second one, not changing. And third one, as you can see, it's fetching data. It's that easy. And if you are using MongoDB, of course, instead of here, you can say users, you can write here your user model, and you can say find methods. MongoDB accepts any regex code. It was searching like that or not, I'm not sure. But if I remember correctly, it was like that. You can search for your query. And after that, you can take this user and send it here. Basically, it depends on you. I don't know which DB you are using, which framework you are using, but it works like that. Of course, if you are thinking your server is too weak to handle that, or if you have thousands of, maybe millions of records, you shouldn't use it like that. You should use any cloud service like Amazon Cloud Search or Elasticsearch, but they are more advanced concepts. I don't think I can make a tutorial for them in this channel because it's kinda beginner friendly tutorial channel, but if you want to know, just let me know in the comments. Okay, that's all. I hope you liked it. If you learned something new today, please like the video, and you can support Lama using the join button or the link in the description below. And don't forget to follow Lama social media accounts. And that's all. I hope I will see you in the next tutorial. Goodbye.